I'm gonna get so much crap for this. Okay, so Patreon supporters voted for this one, so here we go. Here are my unpopular opinions, or at least some of my personal opinions about Linux, open source and its community. So let's start right after this. This video is sponsored by Linode. Founded in 2003, Linode is the largest independent cloud service provider built on open source. If it runs on Linux, it runs on Linode. Multiple distros are available, including Ubuntu, CentOS, Alpine, and of course Arch. The multiple server configurations make any app or service flexible and scalable to host a website, set up your own personal VPN, create a Nextcloud instance, host a game server, and more. Linode offers 24/7 support any day of the year, by phone or support ticket, regardless of your plan size. The simple pricing with monthly caps ensures that there is no hidden fees, and a generous monthly transfer is built in, which means there is no large bill surprises like you get from AWS or Azure. Sign up today at linode.com/linuxexperiments to get your $100 in Linux server credits. The link is in the description. Okay, so please try to remember these are my personal opinions, so you may disagree with them, you may think I'm a terrible human being because of those opinions. You can also unsubscribe if you really don't like my opinions, but in the end, it's just an opinion, so let's be civil down there in the comments. Okay, so the first one is that some parts of the Linux community are just plain discouraging beginners to join the Linux bandwagon. Most of the community on the Linux forums can be pretty welcoming, but there are a small fringe portion of elitist users that really just want to tout how superior they are and how using Linux makes you better and how anybody using anything else is just a terrible human being. And this is not the right approach, guys. This is not going to convert anybody to our cause. This is not going to make people switch to Linux. This is just offensive and discourages beginners to join the community and join our operating system. If you go into forums and tell somebody that is using Windows that the problem with his machine is that he's using Windows, like, hey, I've got a bug with my internet connection, and the solution is just use Linux. This is not helpful. This is not helpful. This gives a bad opinion of Linux for this guy. If you've been using Linux for a while or just for 2 months and you're touting your distro of choice, saying that how it's better than every other distro, that everything else sucks, any other Linux distro is worthless, mainly it's Arch, let's be honest, it's Arch users basically. But yeah, this is not giving a good opinion to other Linux potential users. This makes them feel unwelcome. Somebody who tries Ubuntu, if you say, hey, your problem is using Ubuntu, you should move to distro X. This is not helpful. You're not creating a nice environment for the community, and these parts of the Linux community are just toxic, and frankly, they hurt our adoption. They hurt the adoption of Linux. Okay, so my second opinion is that telemetry isn't bad. I'm gonna get some crap for this, but telemetry, as implemented, for example, by Ubuntu or KDE, isn't bad. It's not privacy invasive, you can disable it, it is not bad. Distros and desktop environments need to have some data to focus their work on whatever they want to focus on. So they need to know what the average user uses, what hardware is the most used, what screen resolution is the most used, what graphics card, what processor, what capacity for storage. This helps them make informed decisions to know what to focus on, how to optimize the interface, how to optimize the storage space that the distro uses. This is important. And if you don't want to communicate this data, sure, you can just disable it or not enable it in the cases where it's opt-in. That's not a problem. But telemetry in itself isn't a bad thing. You don't need to spout on the internet everything that you hate telemetry, that telemetry is spying, it's privacy invasive, it's spyware. This is just not true, and I think the Linux community should really chill about this. So sure, you could say that using telemetry data allows some companies to create a more accurate user profile than if they had not use telemetry data. But honestly, if you trust the open source community to produce your OS, to produce your applications, your networking stack, you should probably trust them with what they do with telemetry as well. And ironically, I think most users complaining about this also have a Google account or a Facebook or a WhatsApp, which are way more privacy invasive than just telemetry. So if you want to stop using Ubuntu or KDE because they ask you if you want to communicate your data, and you still use Google, Facebook, or WhatsApp, that's pretty ironic. Okay, third opinion is that Windows and macOS 10 are fine. They are not trash, they are not hot garbage. I don't use them. I don't like them. I don't like using Windows or macOS 10. But I have to agree, some things about those systems are good. Windows has good application support and good third-party support. macOS 10 has a good interface, looks good. Well, not the latest update that they're pushing, but still, it's intuitive, it's easy to use, it's simple to use. They have advantages, and saying to somebody that just Windows or macOS 10 is unacceptable, that it's a trash system, is just not true. You may not like it, you may not want to use it, but it doesn't mean that what other people use is bad. And if you've ever attacked somebody on their system of choice, and this goes back to the community problem, like people attacking people for using Windows or macOS 10, when somebody tells you that your distro of choice is trash, is your first reaction to say that, hey, this guy is right, I should try something else? Or is it just, hey, I feel attacked on what I really like and on what I've been using and on my personal choices? And your first instinct is to lash out. It's not to say, hey, this guy might be right, I'm going to listen to him. You just lash out and you don't listen and you basically entrench yourself deeper with the thing that has been criticized. It's basic mentality and psychology. So attacking other users' systems, whether another distro or macOS 10 or Windows, is just not going to help people move to a superior system. Oh, sorry, to our system, Linux. Fourth opinion, snaps are okay. I know, people hate snaps. They're heavy, they display stuff in your disk, something like, yeah, they mount points. Okay, sure, that's bad, I guess. They're slow, they don't respect the theme. I get it. You don't like snaps, or some people don't at least. But they're okay, they're just a packaging format. They're not cancer, they're not spyware, they're not Ubuntu trying to turn into canonical or pushing corporations to try and invade Linux. They're just a packaging format. Don't use it? Don't like it? It's okay. You don't have to go online and criticize every single time there's a snap mentioned, or just hate on Ubuntu or canonical or snaps all the time. It's okay. You don't like them, don't use them, but don't reduce the work that these people do to it's trash. This is really unhelpful. Fifth opinion, and probably the one that is going to get me the most hate, is that some proprietary software is okay. I don't like proprietary software. The concept irks me, okay? I don't like it. I want to use open source software as much as I can, and that's what I did on my phone by removing most of the proprietary applications, and on my desktop I try to use only open source applications with a few exceptions. I have Spotify, which doesn't have a free software equivalent. I have DaVinci Resolve because it solves issues that I have with other open source video editors, and this is fine. Like, these pieces of proprietary software bridge in the gaps while the open source community catches up and fills the blanks. It's okay. Like, for example, we don't have any Adobe software right now. Some people don't want Adobe software, but I'd rather have Adobe software right now than nothing. And some people will say use GIMP, use Inkscape, but these are not a solution for people who are used to Adobe. I would prefer using an open source solution, but if it doesn't fit the bill, I will use whatever works, and I will just not stop myself from doing what I like just because there is no open source software that suits my needs. Sixth opinion, the multitude of distributions and desktop environments is actually a good thing. Some people think that having too much choice is a problem, and I agree on some terms of that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But in the meantime, I think having multitude of choice is not reinventing the wheel. Having multiple distros with new ones popping up every now and then, having multiple desktop environments, multiple possible network stacks or init daemons, whatever, it's good. We have solutions, we have options, we can tweak, we can change, we can run around, we can try something new. I think it's a good thing. And the main argument that I often hear about this is that it confuses beginners, and I get it. Too much choice confuses beginners. Someone who is new to Linux will not understand why there are 100 distros, 100 different distros, or 100 different stacks, or 100 different command lines that can do the same thing, or many desktop environments. They don't know what to choose, and that's a barrier. But the barrier is not the choice. The barrier is that we don't have a good onboarding experience. We probably should start working on something which is a website or an application that lets you analyze the various needs that you have and pick a distro for you. For example, you could say, I want something really stable that can run games and that has a desktop environment that looks like Windows. And somebody would recommend, for example, Linux Mint. It's the onboarding experience that we need to work on, not reducing the choices. The choices are fine. What we need to do is make sure that beginners can choose easily and are not too confused by having to look on multiple websites and multiple forums. Okay, and the last opinion, and in retrospect, probably the worst one that I'm gonna get attacked so much for, is I don't understand using Arch on a production system. And don't get me wrong, I love Arch Linux. I know I rip on some of the Arch Linux community, like the, by the way, I use Arch fringe of some of the Arch community. I don't like those guys, okay? But I like Arch. I installed it on 2 of my systems. I think it's a fantastic hobbyist project. I think it's great to learn how your system works, how the components layer on top of each other. It's just fantastic. What I don't understand is using it on a machine that you're going to use to do some work. Because it's a bleeding edge distro, and it is going to crash and burn at some point or to have bugs that you need to fix. It's obvious. It has happened to me, it has happened to friends, it has happened to almost everybody I know who's using Arch. There are some issues with updates, because you get updates constantly and they are not really tested before they are pushed to you. Why would you want to use that on a server or on a desktop that you need to use for work? I don't really understand it, and if you have good arguments for that, I am willing to listen to those, because I would love to know why people keep using Arch on their main systems. And I like Arch, I'm not hating on Arch or Arch users, I'm not telling you the system is trash, but yeah, I just don't understand, and I would like somebody to make me understand why they would use Arch on a production system. And that's it for this video. Don't hesitate to let me know what you think about the various points in the comments. Please try to be civil and not attack anybody or me personally if you can avoid it. And I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. If you really did like the video, I have a Patreon page. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!